When my son yelled, "You'll never be him," I revealed the truth: will he support your dreams? The evening air was thick with tension, the kind that binds a father and son in unspoken words. After a dinner filled with forced smiles and shadows of worry, Jake slammed his fist on the table. "You'll never be him," he screamed, his face flushed with anger as he pointed toward the family friend whose perfect life seemed to hover just out of reach. The words hung in the air like a bitter cloud, suffocating the fragile connection they shared. Chris's heart sank. It felt like the ground beneath them shifted. He knew that look on Jake's face, a combination of disappointment and desperation. As Chris looked into his son's stormy eyes, he realized this was no ordinary argument. This was a plea, unmasking the weight Jake carried, laden with expectations that felt insurmountable. In that moment, Chris felt the familiar tug of his own past, the memories pouring in like a montage. The late nights in the garage, the grease-stained hands that had fixed countless cars, and the hope that fueled his dreams of becoming a motivational speaker. He had always believed in resilience, that the path to success twisted and turned, marked by hard work and heart. But as he locked eyes with Jake, he questioned if he had been enough of a lighthouse in his son's storm. "Jake, listen to me," Chris said, his voice steady yet soft. He stepped closer, pulling out a chair as he sat, the wood creaking under the weight of their shared reality. "Success isn't just about being big or flashy or rich like him," he continued, the warmth of his words wrapping around Jake like a blanket. "It's about facing struggles head-on, just as I did and still do." He dove into their family history, recounting the sacrifices that had paved their lives and shared the stories of struggle from not only his past but also from the friend Jake idolized. That man wasn't always on top. He had his hardships too. "Remember that called a path of success is made from failures, from rising up when you're knocked down. It's about having the courage to follow your dreams, regardless of what the world expects of you." Taking a breath, Chris narrowed the focus back to Jake. "Will he be there to lift you up when you stumble? Can you count on him like I've always been there for you?" Silence filled the space between them, thick and heavy like molasses. Chris felt every second ticking by, wanting desperately to reach Jake's heart. I don't know if he would," Jake finally confessed, his voice trembling beneath the surface of confusion and longing. Chris could see vulnerability in his son now, naked and in that moment, the distance between them shrank. As the unspoken questions of who would truly support whom danced in the air, Chris felt a flicker of hope. They were wrestling with their truths, battling shadows of self-doubt, but together. "We'll figure it out, Jake," Chris whispered, his heart swelling with determination. "We can navigate this together. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the room echoed with silence, the walls felt less confining, and a flicker of understanding illuminated the darkness. Chris wondered if this was just the beginning of something deeper. Could the bond of fatherhood weather the storm of societal pressure? He took Jake's hesitant hand in his, preparing to face whatever came next. Together, with faith in their journey. In the throes of their honesty, Chris had one lingering thought: were they strong enough to rewrite the narrative together amidst the relentless noise of expectations? The days that followed were a mixture of unease and whispered hope. Jake walked through the hallways of their home with a different weight on his shoulders. He still wore that frown, but it seemed less fierce than before. Chris noticed small changes too: the way Jake sought him out more often, the tentative questions about his own dreams that began to slip from his lips. One evening, as they sat on the porch with the sun setting in a blaze of oranges and pinks, Jake broke the silence. "Do you think what if I can't live up to that guy?" His voice wavered, unsure yet yearning for validation. He hugged his knees to his chest, looking out at the yard where their old pickup truck sat rusting. Chris leaned back, taking a moment to gather his thoughts. You know, it's not about living up to someone else. You have your own path. It's like cultivating a garden. Every flower blooms in its own time. You've got to nurture your dreams and give them room to grow. Jake turned to him, the confusion in his eyes beginning to fade. But what if I fail? Chris held his breath, focused on the moment. The fear of failure gripped him, too. Staying still, he allowed the weight of Jake's question to linger. Failing is part of the process. It's how we learn. It's how we find out what truly matters to us. It's never really failing unless you stop trying. Even as he said these words, Chris reflected on his own fears. He had faced setbacks aplenty, moments when he was convinced he would never reach the stage he had always dreamed of. There had been times when he thought about giving up, about stepping back into the shadows. But he never did. What if I want to do something different than what you did? Jake's voice was quieter now, a whisper of uncertainty that hung between them. Then go for it, buddy. It's your story to write, Chris replied, a surge of warmth bubbling up in his chest. You don't have to follow my footsteps. Just make sure you're following your heart. In that instant, relief washed over Jake's face, a hint of courage igniting in his eyes. I just want to do something that matters, you know? Chris smiled, feeling the shift in the air. Then do it. Whatever that looks like for you, just go. I'll be right here, cheering you on, even when the path gets bumpy. We'll tackle every twist and turn together. I promise you, success is not the absence of struggle, it's the bravery to press on. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting long shadows across the porch. In that quiet glow, their bond felt stronger, fortified by honesty and shared fears. There was something growing between them, something more substantial than the unspoken expectations that had once carried the weight of their relationship, but just as Chris allowed himself to breathe in the moment, the weight of reality returned. Would Jake be able to find his own voice amid the noise surrounding them? Chris could barely stand the thought that the first stirrings of confidence might waver under pressure. As the night descended upon them, stars began to twinkle overhead, and a new question lingered in Chris's mind: would he be able to encourage Jake as he ventured into the world, or would the shadows of doubt creep back in, threatening to swallow their shared hopes? With every heartbeat, Chris felt the urgency of time pressing on them. Each moment counted. What would tomorrow bring with the dawn? Would Jake take that first brave step towards his own dreams or retreat again into the shadows? Dawn broke over the horizon, spilling golden light into the bedroom where Jake lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The events of the evening prior echoed in his mind, a buoying melody of encouragement mingled with lingering doubt. What if he took that first step and the ground crumbled beneath him? Downstairs, Chris prepared breakfast. The scent of bacon and eggs filled the air, familiar and comforting. Jake slowly made his way to the kitchen, his feet dragging as if they were weighted by unspoken fears. When Chris noticed him, he smiled, a hint of compassion lighting his eyes. "Morning, champ. Ready to tackle today?" Chris's upbeat tone was infectious, even if Jake wasn't fully convinced. "Yeah. I guess," Jake mumbled, sliding into a chair and resting his chin on his hands. Chris placed a plate in front of him. "We can start small. What's on your mind today? Any dreams you want to chase?" Jake picked at the food on his plate, avoiding Chris's gaze. It was easier that way. Lifting his eyes finally, he swallowed hard. "What if I don't know what I want?" Chris leaned over, his expression serious yet warm. "Then let us figure it out together. You don't have to have it all figured out right now. Just take it one step at a time." With a gentle nudge of encouragement, Chris passed him a piece of paper. "How about starting with a list? Write down anything that makes you curious. No pressure. Just explore." Jake grabbed the pen, hesitated, then started scribbling. Thoughts spilled onto the page: photography, coding, traveling. By the time he looked up again, his heart raced with a peculiar excitement, something resembling hope. "See? You have ideas." Chris beamed, pride radiating from him like sunlight. "Now we can figure out how to bring those to life." Jake nodded slowly, energy rekindling within him. But notions of doubt still lingered at the edges. Contradicting voices echoed, "What if it's not enough?" Later, as they stepped outside, the world felt wide open, full of potential. Jake inhaled the fresh morning air, though uncertainty still twisted in his stomach like a knotted rope. "What if someone tells me I can't do it?" he asked, his voice almost a whisper. Chris halted, turning to face him. "Then you tell them to watch you. Everyone faces critics, Jake. It's what you do with that negativity that defines you. Don't give in to the doubt, channel it into determination." Across the street, a neighbor shouted at his kid, "You'll never be him." Rage flickered in Jake's heart, igniting an understanding of his own fears. He felt the words tear at him as if they were knives cutting through his fragile confidence. Jake turned back to Chris, voice shaking. "What if I'm not good enough? What if I'm a disappointment?" Chris knelt, placing a hand on Jake's shoulder, grounding him. "You can't let fear dictate your dreams. I believe in you more than anyone else in your life. Disappointment only happens if you stop trying. And it's okay to stumble. It's not the fall that matters, it's how you rise afterward." For the first time, hope transformed that earlier fear into a sense of cautious excitement. "Can you promise to be there with me?" Jake asked, a hint of a smile breaking through the clouds of anxiety. "Always," Chris replied, his voice steady and sure. As they locked eyes, something shifted between them. Jake felt the burden of expectations ease, ready to explore the untamed realms of his dreams. But deep in Jake's heart, an unsettling thought lingered: would the world around him embrace his growing courage, or would the harsh voices strike again? As they stepped into the day, a mix of hope and uncertainty danced in Jake's chest. What would the world show him today? Would he find the strength to voice his dreams, or let fear smother him again? The sun climbed higher, casting long shadows on the sidewalk as Jake and Chris walked down the street. A fresh breeze rustled the leaves overhead, teasing at the edges of Jake's worries. For the first time in a long while, he felt lighter, not just physically, but emotionally. Each step they took seemed to carry a mix of excitement and trepidation, and he could feel his heart beating an eager rhythm of possibility. "Hey," Chris said, breaking the silence. "What's the first thing on that list you want to dive into?" Jake hesitated again, the written words flashing through his mind. "Photography," he said cautiously. It was a choice born of simple joy, something he had loved since childhood. "Great choice." The enthusiasm in Chris's voice was palpable. "Let us go grab a camera and take some pictures. You can start with what you see around us." A rush of thrill surged through Jake. "You really think I can do it?" His heart twisted with a mix of hope and skepticism. "Absolutely. And if you need an extra set of hands, I'm your guy," Chris replied, his eyes sparkling with encouragement. As Jake contemplated his next steps, they noticed an art festival being set up in a nearby park. Colorful tents bloomed like flowers across the grass, and laughter from children echoed as they chased each other. The vibrant scene resonated with Jake's spirit, a call to get involved, to not just watch but to participate. "Should we check it out?" Chris suggested, his gaze focused on the festival. "What if there are people who know what they're doing? What if I embarrass myself?" The doubt crept back in, a familiar voice whispering in his ear. Chris paused, turning to face him again. "That's exactly why you should go. You learn by doing. Besides, no one starts out perfect. You'll never regret trying." With his heart racing, Jake nodded a little too quickly, as if agreeing to a dare. "Okay, let's do it." Despite the fluttering anxiety, a sliver of excitement cut through. The moment they entered the festival, Jake felt alive. The smells of street food, the sound of laughter, and the chatter of artists showcasing their work surrounded him. Creatives wandered about, sharing ideas, and Jake could feel the pulse of passion in the air. He fumbled to find his camera, pulling it from his backpack. "Breathe," Chris whispered, a reassuring smile plastered on his face. "Just take it all in." Jake turned the camera on a local artist painting a mural. He clicked the shutter, the sound like a small crack of thunder, echoing the potential within him. Each photo he took felt like a step forward, a tiny rebellion against fear. As they wandered through the colorful landscape of the festival, a voice resonated in the distance. "You'll never be him." It was a harsh reminder, echoing from near where a child stood, facing his art-dominated parents, their expectations heavy in the air. Jake flinched as the words ricocheted through him, a reminder of his own doubts. "Jake?" Chris's voice was firm, pulling him from the fog of self-doubt that had started to cloud his mind again. "Ignore that. You're not them, and you don't have to be." Jake turned to see the determination in Chris's eyes. "You're right," he replied, finding strength in the anchor of Chris's support. "I want to be me." Feeling emboldened, Jake captured moments: kids laughing, older couples sharing kisses, artists lost in their craft. Each snapshot felt like a revelation, layers of fear peeling away as the world came into focus, but in the back of his mind, the question loomed larger: would he be able to brave the judgments lying ahead? Could he keep going past today's fragile confidence? As they moved deeper into the festival, Jake turned to Chris, his voice steady but wavering. "What if I can't keep this up? What if I'm just average?" "Then you'll keep working. Average doesn't mean unworthy. It means you're on your way. And I'll be here every step." The day unfolded, filled with possibilities, yet Jake still felt the weight of uncertainty pressing on his heart. As they prepared to leave, a flicker of determination sparked within him. What new challenges awaited? Would he truly find the courage to stand tall against his fears, or will doubt shadow his every step? The tension lingered, a mix of excitement for what was next and fear of falling into the dark once more. The festival lights twinkled around them as Jake and Chris exited, buzzing with remnants of energy that lingered in the air. Jake clutched his camera like a lifeline, the weight of it grounding him as he processed the day. Each click of the shutter replayed in his mind, a soundtrack of growing confidence layered with the echo of that harsh voice. "Did you see the murals? The colors were insane." Chris's excited chatter ignited a fire in Jake. "Yeah. I can't believe I took pics of that." The more he spoke, the brighter his smile became. It felt good. "Exactly. You're a natural. Just think how much you can learn." Chris's encouragement was infectious. It felt like the two of them could chase down the sky with their dreams if they tried hard enough, but as Jake walked home that evening, a chill settled over his thoughts. The voice from earlier still haunted him. What if he failed? What if the weight of judgment was more than he could bear? The clatter of their footsteps on the sidewalk was a comforting rhythm, but it was overshadowed by his swirling fears. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Hey, you okay?" Chris asked, noticing Jake's sudden quietness. "Just thinking," Jake replied, hoping to brush it off. "About what you said earlier. Average doesn't mean unworthy." "Right. It means you're on your way, just like I said. Remember, everyone starts somewhere." Jake nodded, but doubt settled in his chest again. What if I hit a wall? What if I don't grow? Chris stopped walking, turning to face him. "You're not alone, remember? You decide what average looks like for you. It could be your beginning, but it doesn't define your end." Jake met Chris's gaze, something inside him flickering. "But the voice, it's just noise. You have to drown it out with what you love." Chris smiled. "Plus, don't have to commit to being the best from day one. You just need to commit to showing up." Those words resonated, sending a rush of warmth through him. What if I actually tried? The thought felt like a pebble thrown into a lake, rippling outward into 1,000 possibilities. Then let us keep this momentum going, Chris exclaimed, grabbing Jake's shoulder. Next step, maybe we start a series? Capture stories from people around town, all through your lens? That idea lit a spark inside Jake. Stories? Yeah. Everyone's got a story worth telling. Why not share them your way? The thought expanded in Jake's mind like the canvas of a mural. He could weave together pictures and words, highlight truths and emotions. All right, let us go for it, he said, a sudden brightness shining through the clouds of doubt. I'll make it real. That's the spirit. Chris grinned, clapping Jake on the back. We'll start tomorrow. Find our first storyteller. As they resumed their walk, enthusiasm began to drown the lingering doubt. Jake's heart pounded with a mix of fear and excitement. Yet, a shadow loomed from within. What if the stories weren't enough? What if he couldn't capture the real essence of who people were? Chris? Jake called out, halting in his steps. What if I can't connect? Chris turned, his expression warm yet serious. You'll never know unless you try, Jake. Remember, the only failure is not trying at all. The weight of those words struck deep. Would he let fear stunt his journey, or would he embrace the messy, unpredictable process of growth? The moments bloomed in his mind, each more vibrant than the last, as he stared ahead into uncharted territory. Tomorrow held promise, but uncertainty tangled with anticipation. What would the first story reveal? Would it push Jake further into his journey or force him to confront his deepest fears? The question echoed as they continued down the path, leaving the full weight of the festival and all it inspired behind them. Morning light spilled through Jake's window, illuminating his bedroom with a soft glow. The camera sat ready on his desk, a silent companion of his thoughts. Today was different. Today was the start of something new. Jake's heart raced as he touched the cool metal of the lens. He felt a rush of determination but also an undercurrent of anxiety. Would his vision translate into images that truly represented the stories of others? Exhaling slowly, he shook off the weight of doubt and reached for his phone to text Chris. Let us meet at the cafe. The cafe buzzed like a hive. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the chatter of patrons. Jake watched as Chris walked in, his expression bright and contagious. Ready to embark on our adventure? Chris asked, sliding into the booth across from Jake. I think so, just a little nervous, you know. Jake admitted, stirring his coffee absent-mindedly. Good. You should be. It's a big deal. Chris chuckled. But you're more than capable of this. We'll find someone amazing to start with. They brainstormed ideas as the minutes flew by. Every suggestion fueled Jake's excitement. Perhaps an artist, a teacher, or even a barista with a story woven into every cup. Ideas sparked like shooting stars, illuminating the path ahead, but one thought kept creeping into his mind: what if he failed to capture their truth? What if I can't do them justice? Jake said, his voice barely above a whisper. Then you learn. Every click is a chance to understand them better. Chris leaned in, earnest. You can't drown in what-ifs. You just have to dive in. Fueled by Chris's words, Jake's resolve strengthened. Okay. Let us find our first storyteller. They stepped outside, the sun warming their backs as they wandered the streets of their small town. Jake scanned the faces around him. Each person hurried by, wrapped in their own lives, yet here he was, preparing to dive into theirs. They turned the corner and spotted a vibrant street artist setting up. His canvas was bright and chaotic. Jake halted. Look at that! He exclaimed, pointing. Perfect. Let us go. Chris replied, excitement bubbling over. Approaching the artist, Jake felt a mix of vulnerability and courage. "Hey! We're starting a project sharing stories through photography. Would you be willing to share yours?" He blurted out, his heart pounding. The artist regarded him with curiosity. "What's your story?" Jake paused. His story? It felt underwhelming against the backdrop of colorful chaos in front of him. "I'm just starting, just exploring photography." The artist's eyes softened. "We all start somewhere. What you feel is valid. But a genuine story comes from connection." Jake nodded, absorbing the wisdom. They entered into conversation, and as the artist spoke, Jake's confidence began to unfurl. Each word painted a vivid picture, lighting sparks inside Jake that dispelled his doubts. Time slipped through the cracks of their interaction. Jake raised his camera, testing angles, capturing laughter, solitude, and the artist's passion. Each click brought him closer to understanding. When it was over, Jake felt like he had not only taken photos but had also built a bridge. "Nice work." Chris nudged him. "That was great." Jake beamed as he glanced at the artist. "Thank you for sharing your story. I'll honor it." With a sense of accomplishment, Jake glanced at Chris. "What now?" Chris grinned. "Now we edit and maybe find another story to tell." With that, Jake stepped deeper into his journey. But even as they walked away, a thought lingered: would every story be this easy? What if the next person they approached hesitated or turned them down? The weight of anticipation wrapped around him, intertwining hope and fear. As they disappeared into the bustling streets, Jake wondered who would be next, and would he have the courage to ask? The journey was just beginning, yet already felt like an emotional roller coaster. How many more truths awaited him on this winding path? The sun hung high as Jake and Chris made their way down the street, the excitement from their first encounter still buzzing in Jake's veins. Each corner they turned felt like the portal to another story waiting to be told, another life to explore. Yet, as they passed the familiar storefronts, an unsettling thought nestled itself in Jake's mind. What if he couldn't keep finding stories that resonated? What's next? Chris asked, glancing around. The world around them was alive, yet Jake felt an unexpected heaviness settle in. I don't know," he stammered. The words felt clumsy on his tongue. What if the next person isn't as easy to talk to? What if they don't want to share? Chris nudged him playfully. "Jake, come on. You've got this. Remember, we're not just hunting for stories. We're building connections. Not everyone will be an open book, but that's what makes this journey special." Jake nodded, taking a deep breath as he caught sight of a small bookstore. A thought sparked: maybe someone inside could be a story worth telling. "Let's try in there," he suggested. The bell above the door jingled as they walked in, the scent of old paper and coffee wrapped around them like a warm hug. People drifted among the shelves, fingers running along spines of books that held a million untold tales. In a corner, a middle-aged woman was leaning against a stack of novels, her brow furrowed in thought. "Excuse me," Jake called out gently, his heart thudding in his chest. "We're sharing stories through photography. Would you be open to sharing yours?" The woman looked up, surprise dancing across her face. "My story? Oh, I don't know. I'm just a simple book lover." "Simple doesn't mean unimportant," Chris jumped in, his enthusiasm palpable. "Every love story has layers, just like every good book." Her lips twisted around a small smile. "Okay, I guess I can give it a shot." Jake felt the tension ease as they settled into a conversation. The woman, whose name was Martha, spoke of her passion for stories that transcended her quiet existence. Each word dripped with emotion as she recounted her attempts to write but never feeling quite good enough. As Jake raised his camera, he could see vulnerability in her eyes, resilience budding amidst self-doubt. He clicked the shutter, capturing the delicate emotion spilling forth. With each snap, he felt her story sliding into place, reshaping his perception of simplicity. After their conversation, Jake felt full of warmth. "Thank you, Martha. Your story means a lot. It reminds me how important it is to share and connect." Martha smiled back, her eyes shimmering. "And it takes courage to ask. Don't underestimate your journey." As they stepped outside, the world felt different. "That was incredible," Chris beamed. "You nailed it." Jake's heart surged. "Thanks. But what if the next one isn't as open?" Chris chuckled. "Then we keep asking. Each no just leads us closer to a yes." But in the back of Jake's mind, doubt flared up again. What if asking for stories meant exposing himself more than he was ready for? Suddenly, he craved certainty in the uncertainty of his mission. The thrill that once propelled him now carried a hint of fear. They wandered to a nearby park where families frolicked, laughter ringing in the air. A little girl twirled, her joy palpable, and Jake felt the urge to capture the essence of her happiness. "Let us try over there," he said, motioning to a bench where an elderly man sat alone. "It might be another chance for a good story." As they approached, Jake's heart quickened. Would this man share his life's journey? Or would he glance up, shake his head, and send them away? 1,000 thoughts crashed into him, leaving him breathless. He opened his mouth to speak, but words hung in the air like heavy fog. Would he gather the courage to ask once more? The moment pulsed with silent tension. One question hung on the edge. What awaited him and Chris beyond this encounter, and would either of them be ready for whatever came next? Jake took a deep breath, feeling the weight of anticipation in the air. The elderly man, with his weathered face and twinkling eyes, looked up at them. For a moment, Jake lost his nerve. What if the man was in a world of his own, indifferent to the call to share? But then, he remembered Martha's words, how courage was woven into the fabric of connection. "Excuse me, sir," Jake began, his voice steadying. "We're gathering stories through photography. Would you be willing to share yours?" The man's expression shifted, curiosity flickering in his eyes like a candle's flame. "Stories, eh?" he mused. "Everyone has one, don't they?" He tapped his fingers on the bench, as if drumming up memories from deep within. "Absolutely," Chris jumped in, his excitement bubbling. "We'd love to hear yours." Jake's heart raced as the man leaned back, a hint of a smile tugging at his lips. "I suppose I do have a few tales. But they aren't all sunshine and roses, I'll warn you." Jake glanced at Chris, who nodded encouragingly. The elderly man cleared his throat, looking off into the distance. "My name's Henry. I used to be quite the traveler. But I left it all behind." "What made you stay?" Jake asked, genuinely intrigued. Henry laughed softly, a sound full of warmth and weariness. "I made a promise to my son. He was just a boy with big dreams, and I wanted to be there for him. But when the world calls, sometimes you forget what you wanted." The words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken regrets. Jake felt a deep empathy surge through him. "Did you ever regret it?" he questioned, his voice low. "Regret?" Henry's gaze sharpened, sending a thrill down Jake's spine. "Not a day goes by where I don't wonder what could have been. But then I see him succeed, and it fills me with pride. Watching him chase his dreams, it's like I'm living them too, just through him." The park melted away around them, leaving only the two men and their shared understanding. Jake lifted his camera, capturing the shimmer of emotion in Henry's eyes. This man wasn't just sharing stories, he was unearthing layers of love, sacrifice, and connection. Henry continued. "But sometimes, I can't help but think, what if he felt I held him back? What if he thinks I gave up?" That fear, Jake realized, was universal. The worry of being a weight instead of a wingspan lingered in so many hearts. Jake set the camera down, moved. "Henry, have you told him any of this?" "No," he replied, shaking his head. I figured it might only burden him more. Maybe it's best left unsaid. Jake felt a lump in his throat. Or maybe it's the story he needs to hear. Understanding where you come from could inspire him further. He might be uplifted knowing your sacrifices. The weight of those words hung in the air between them. Henry's brow furrowed, as if Jake's suggestion had sparked a flame of new possibility. Maybe you're right, he said slowly, almost as if testing the notion. Perhaps it's time I show him what it really means to chase dreams together. The sun reached lower in the sky, casting a golden hue all around them. Jake could feel the energy shifting. This wasn't just a conversation anymore. It was a potential turning point. Thank you for sharing this with us, Henry, Chris said, his eyes sparkling. It's a powerful reminder about stories, how they can connect us, bridge our fears. Henry smiled, a genuine brightness illuminating his face. You boys have given me something to think about. As they wrapped up, Jake knew this was a pivotal moment, not only for Henry but for himself too. They had transcended mere stories, they had unlocked a door to healing, but there was still one question echoing in Jake's heart, the words that had stumbled upon each moment of shared vulnerability. Would talking about dreams fray the ties of family or deepen them? As they walked back through the park, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that Henry was only the beginning. Who would they meet next? What other layers of life had yet to fall away, revealing stories he had yet to discover? With hope flickering through him, he turned to Chris, his voice buzzing with energy. What do you think will happen if we keep looking for more stories? The sunset painted the sky, waiting for answers they had yet to uncover. As they strolled through the park, Jake's thoughts whirled around like leaves caught in an autumn gust. Chris walked beside him, a playful grin on his face. What do you think, more stories or a snack first? Jake chuckled, but his mind was still on Henry. A snack can wait. I'm feeling restless for more stories. I want to see how far this can go. Always the dreamer, Chris teased. But let us not forget, the last story was pretty deep. What if the next person pulls us into something we're not ready for? That had crossed Jake's mind too. But then, wasn't that the beauty of storytelling? He shrugged it off and nudged Chris. You'll manage. After all, we're in an adventure, right? As they approached a bustling corner of the park, a familiar clamor caught Jake's ear. Laughter, shouts of children, and the distant strum of a guitar drew him in. They wandered over, curiosity piqued, only to discover a crowd gathered around a young man playing. His fingers danced over the strings, creating a melody that seemed to carry the playful spirit of the park. For a moment, Jake was entranced, forgetting about the project for a heartbeat. But then he noticed a younger boy, no older than 8, standing at the front of the crowd with a look that seemed torn between admiration and longing. What's up with the kid? Chris asked, pulling Jake out of his trance. Looks like he wants to join in, Jake replied, noticing how the boy's eyes sparkled with hope and fear. He knew that fire all too well. Maybe he has something to share. Before he could think it through, Jake approached the boy, crouching to meet him at eye level. Hey there. Great moves. You play guitar? The boy flushed, glancing nervously at the performer. I want to, but I'm not very good. Getting better is part of the fun, Jake encouraged. What's your name? Sam. Nice to meet you, Sam. Ever thought about getting up there and playing? Sam nodded, but doubt clouded his eyes. I don't know, what if I mess up? That question twisted inside Jake. He saw so much of himself in Sam, the same hesitation when faced with something that felt big. What if the guy playing now messes up? Sam looked up, surprised. He could. But he's really good. Exactly. Maybe he started off just like you, Jake pointed out, sensing the spark of confidence flicker in Sam's demeanor. You could do it too. And who knows, you might inspire someone else to chase their dreams. Sam's gaze shifted back to the guitarist. There was a moment of silence, then he squared his little shoulders, breathing deep. Okay, I'll try, but what if I mess up in front of everyone? Jake felt the tension tighten in his chest. Then you mess up. But you'll do it bravely, and that's what counts. You'll never know if you don't try. Sam's eyes glimmered with determination and fear, and then he turned to the guitarist, buoyed by something inside him. Just then, Chris chimed in, you know what? If you go up there, I'll be right here cheering you on. The guitarist glanced at Sam, sensing the shift. Hey little dude, want to jam? It's all about fun. In a moment that felt simultaneously electrifying and surreal, Sam scrambled to the front, his heart racing while his hands trembled at his sides. Jake held his breath, praying for courage to swell up in the boy. As Sam took a deep breath and stepped up, Jake realized something monumental was about to unfold. This moment, this leap into the unknown, might just reveal the truth of dreams and the hidden fears that accompanied them, but he couldn't shake the feeling that witnessing Sam's choice might uncover something deeper, the very thread of unity between families and hope sometimes lost. Would Sam's courage shift the dynamics of his relationships too? Jake's heart thudded anew, excitement and concern swirling. What if Sam stumbled? What if the real challenge lay not just in playing but in how it would echo back to those waiting for him at home? With his camera at the ready, Jake captured every fragile moment as Sam strummed the first shaky chords. Courage hung in the air like ripe fruit, and Jake realized they were all due for a harvest. Would Sam's small act of bravery spark a journey not just for him but for his family? As laughter and cheers filled the air, Jake's pulse quickened at the thought of unraveling more stories in the moments to come. Jake held his breath, the crowd's buzz echoing around him, alive with possibility. Sam gripped the guitar nervously yet resolutely, his petite fingers finding their place on the neck of the instrument. He took a deep breath, and for the first time, Jake saw a flicker of pure determination in the boy's eyes. The beat of the world seemed to slow as Sam's trembling hand strummed the first note. The sound was shaky, almost timid, as if it were testing the waters. But then, like a fire-catching flame, the boy found his rhythm. Each chord resonated louder, each note stronger, shaking off the layers of fear that had once wrapped around him. The crowd cheered, clapping along, and Sam's confidence soared. Jake raised his camera, capturing each precious moment, the rapid blink of disbelief from Sam's face transforming into unfiltered joy. Laughter danced in the air, smiles adorned every face, and for a split second, it felt like every person present became part of Sam's journey. Look at him go. Go for it, Sam. Chris cheered, excitement palpable. Jake felt the impact of those words strike his heart, intertwining with memories of his own path, the fear, the passion, and the unyielding support of Chris right beside him. As the final chord rang out, the crowd erupted in applause. Sam stood there, wide-eyed, and for a moment, it felt like he was floating 5 feet off the ground. His face was radiant, a testament to the triumph of vulnerability over fear. That was incredible. Jake exclaimed, his voice buoyed with pride. He approached Sam, who was still processing what had just happened. You were amazing, buddy. See what happens when you give it a shot? Yeah, I can't believe I did it. Sam grinned, disbelief dancing on his face. Chris knelt beside them, glimmering with enthusiasm. You just inspired every single person here. Imagine the stories you'll have to tell from this point forward. As they walked away from the performance cluster, Jake felt a warmth swell inside him. This wasn't just about Sam, it was a reflection of all their journeys, and perhaps, even the dreams each carried with them. Jake glanced at Chris, who was wearing a proud smile, his eyes burning with understanding. Today showed me something important, Jake began, his heart pounding with a sudden realization. It's not just about capturing stories, but also about living them, sharing them, and supporting each other on the way. Chris nodded, his expression thoughtful. Exactly. And look how much courage it took for him to step up there. He reminded us that every moment the uncertainty, the fear is part of the process. Just like you've been discovering in your own journey. The duo arrived at a small bench in the park, sunlight flickering through the branches above, and Jake took a moment to soak it all in. Could he draw the parallels from Sam's experience, the raw courage it took to walk up to the stage, the uncertainty of whether in the end, it would all be worth it? Jake pulled out his camera, flipping through the images he had taken throughout the day. Every shot was vibrant, a mix of emotions, connections, and stories that spoke volumes. Each photograph was a reminder of how brave everyone had been today, right down to Sam and, yes, even himself. Hey, Chris leaned closer, what story do you want to tell next? Jake paused, realizing with a swell of excitement that so much of what they both had encountered needed to live on, needed to be captured in ways that mattered, ways that inspired. I want to share not just the successes but the struggles too. How they shape us, you know. Maybe I could make a series about this, the stories of people who inspire and those who doubt, how that intertwines. Chris's eyes lit up with encouragement. That's perfect. Showing different perspectives can open up dialogue on relationships, struggles, and dreams. Plus, the world could use more understanding. Jake felt the weight of uncertainty lift from his shoulders. Yeah. And we can weave our insights too, like you've been encouraging me to. The truth behind every story makes it real. It'll be an adventure. With each passing moment, curiosity stirred within Jake. They had flickered the flame of connection among the threads of storytelling, and now, a brand new journey awaited. The beauty of shared experiences transformed their hearts, and each encounter would ripple further, affecting not just him but everyone around them. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, Jake felt a profound sense of purpose ignite within him. He was ready to dive deeper into stories and voices he had yet to uncover, weaving connections that extended far beyond himself. Together, Chris said, as they both stood up, walking back to the lively hub of the park, allowing themselves to be swept away in the moment. Always, Jake replied, heart full, eyes shimmering with possibilities. They walked forward, hand in hand with the future, ready to continue transforming their dreams into reality. This was the moment they embraced, not just for themselves but for everyone yet to discover their own journeys ahead. Don't sit back and miss out. You need to subscribe now to the channel to stay connected to these life-altering stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to help us reach more hearts and minds. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this journey. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Your support matters, truly.